Hey there, Rednecks, Preppies, Redneck Preppies. It's me, the Redneck Preppy. How you doing today? Great. Good. This is going to be a long one, and it has relatively little to do with the usual stuff that I cover. It's something, though, that it's been on my mind, so I figured I'd tackle it. Now, if you're a regular viewer and have a savant-like recollection of the breadcrumbs I've dropped in videos, it probably won't surprise you to learn that I have a jaundiced opinion of reviews from both print and online media. In the world of print, particularly when it comes to magazines, you've got a number of issues, no pun intended. There's a long lead time from when an article is submitted to when it's published. In my personal experience, sometimes as long as 6 months. Reviews can often rely on pre-production models, something that can be abused by companies with customized versions designed to minimize any issues. Sometimes it's not clear in reviews that it's not a production model that they're looking at. Also, you have the perennial tug of war between, editorial and advertising. Editorial ostensibly wants to write the truth in a review, while advertising wants to sell the glossy 2-page spread to that same company. Negative reviews don't help that. These days, advertising seems to win that fight more often than not. Online reviews, and I'm speaking mostly about YouTube here, have somewhat related problems. We've seen numerous instances of gun tubers shading their criticisms somewhat or completely to protect their ongoing access to future guns to review. I'm not going to name names here, but I've watched some gun channels for years and have never seen a negative review in all that time. It's truly remarkable. So what's the answer, I hear you asking? Well, I have a solution of sorts. Although I have some issues with Consumer Reports, I admire their dedication to purchasing every product that they review. They don't accept samples, pre-production models, nothing. What they're reviewing is what you and I would be buying. We had an excellent example of why relying on companies to provide a review copy of something is a bad idea back in 2013. When Remington released their R51 pistol, there sure were a lot of old media that proclaimed it as the next new wow. Except that the reviewers were all using what were essentially handcrafted pistols. Once production models appeared in the hands of the public, it didn't take long to discover that the R51 was a piece of crap. If, for example, you expected crazy things from your pistol, like feeding ammunition reliably, extracting spent cases, or being able to take it apart to clean without hating God, you wouldn't have learned that from a majority of the magazine reviews. Only online sources, and not all of them, seem to have caught the problems. But they weren't relying mostly on beta models like the magazines with their long lead times were. Still, a hell of a lot of R51s were sold and then returned to Remington for a nearly 2-year wait until the company repaired or replaced the affected first-generation pistols. Asking reviewers to buy the products they're reviewing is going to bring some problems. Most reviewers and publications can't afford to buy everything that they review. It also means that you're not getting any day zero reviews, so fewer reviews and a longer wait time for them after release. Although those are big downsides, it also means that reviewers are going to have skin in the game. It's easy to praise a marginal product if somebody gave it to you for free or provided a loaner, but if you paid for it, I have a feeling you're probably going to be a little more honest if you're disappointed by it. Also, if you pay for the product to review, you don't need to worry about the company leaning on you with the expectation of a better than deserved review if you want to get loaners or samples in the future. You will have complete and total editorial freedom, free from the repercussions of the marketing department at Lureco or Gunco or whoever the hell thinks that you can be bought. It's not a popular suggestion, but tell me this. How much do you really trust a glowing review in a magazine or a YouTube video when the company provided the product for free and also has glossy ads or is sponsoring that channel? Now, before someone ats me, I'm not saying if you receive a pre-production unit or samples that you review is automatically suspect or that you're doing wrong. I'm just saying that an Remington R51 situation destroys your credibility without you having to do a single thing. A reoccurring motif that you may have seen over the years in my videos is my adoration of unvarnished metrics when it comes to analyzing things. I like spreadsheets and numbers, and outside of Alexandra Daddario, few things turn me on more than statistical data analysis. Give me numbers, baby, and I want them to be independent with a rigorous and standardized process to generate them. Some years ago, I got into a mild argument on a prominent online bass fishing forum with the owner of a company that produces a very well-known scent for fishing. You know, that goop that you smear on your lures that's guaranteed to attract fish. He threw out that scientific testing showed his scent goop was X percentage more likely to catch a fish than without his goop. Well, the statistician in me, and I have several years of university level courses to back that up, smelled blood in the water, not his scent. I asked who generated and conducted that test. His answer was not surprising to me. He did. And his process was simple. Smear his goop on some lures, not on some others, then throw them in a tank with some bass to see what happened. Now, most people would accept that sort of nonsense as valid, but there were several problems. One, the guy conducting the test had a stake in its results. Two, as the guy had a stake in the results, and the guy who was throwing the lures, and the guy who knew which one had his goop on them, he could be, to be polite, subconsciously affect the result. Any angler can tell you that it's pretty easy to fish some lures badly, sometimes deliberately. And yet, I saw reviews of this goop repeat the claim of its scientific efficacy without questioning the origin of those results. This one is a bit harder to prescribe a one-size-fits-all solution. The testing regime you would use on fishing lures is obviously not the same that you would use for a rifle or an off-road tire. It's also a testing regime that would have to evolve over time. Now, I'm not much of a gamer, but there is a channel called Gamers Nexus, which reviews all sorts of computer hardware. Their work on, let's say, graphics cards is fantastic. They run a battery of standardized tests involving everything from processing power to noise levels to power consumption, and over time have built a library of results for different products that they can, as objectively as possible, rank against each other. That sort of thing can be done for firearms, fishing lures, reloading equipment, and everything else that people like us are interested in buying. To take firearms, you could use standardized equipment to test things like accuracy, felt recoil, reliability, and all the things that people care about with a rifle or a pistol, and all with hard numbers. Remove the human element and test things in a way that only generates raw data. That's not to say that subjective opinions aren't welcome. Felt recoil and perceived recoil are two different things. Value is a subjective thing. Comfort is a subjective thing. Plenty of room for opinion, but the review needs to be predicated on hard metrics so people get a real feeling for what it's capable of. Opinions are formed based on those metrics and the experiences with what you're reviewing. Now, these probably should be two separate things, but I'm going to put truth and transparency together. There is no real requirement for a reviewer or a journalist to reveal whether they received a product on spec, for free, as a loaner, whether it was a final production model, whether they got flown out somewhere to be given access to the product. None of it. Some reviewers will admit all of this, and I credit them for that. Many, however, do not. I'm not going to trust a reviewer who admits this stuff any more than I would for those who didn't, but I can at least factor that into my thoughts. I'm pretty sure that many reviewers had issues with, to use this as an example yet again, the Remington R51, but only a few reviewers brought them up. It seemed like everyone else was singing its praises. That or the double-page Remington ad spreads or channel sponsorships made him happy. Who knows? You know, a little more truthfulness and a little less, well, they'll iron it out by the time production starts, so I won't mention it, would have been appreciated by those who bought based on those reviews. How many reviewers told you something simple, like they believed that the pistol was uncomfortable to shoot? What I found interesting in all the research I did on this topic was that there is a reasonable amount of literature on the subject of ethically reviewing products and services. Most of it, tells you what you'd expect to hear. Be honest, be transparent, consider value, those sorts of things. There's far less concrete guidance in how to establish an ethical review process. I can understand then why there seems to be so few reviewers in the outdoors and gun spaces that don't have solid review processes. I can't forgive that so few that have tried to establish them, though. I'll be honest, what I said here today was vaguish enough to make myself sound smart, but offer little completely concrete. Guilty as charged. But as I said earlier, a lot of what goes into creating a good and informative review is dependent on what category you're reviewing. Both a rifle and a pistol are firearms, but you wouldn't review them the same. An AR-15 and a Voodoo 360 are both rifles, but I don't think you'd review them the same either. I'm probably not qualified to create those processes. Yes, this could be a deep rabbit hole for reviewers and for those who rely on those reviews. At any rate, I hope you found today's video to be vaguely entertaining and somewhat informative. As always, I hope you take with a grain of salt that anyone says about a product they're reviewing, myself included. Take care, and bye-bye.